Today we're taking a look at all the species in the new 2024 Player's Handbook.
So you can find out which one you want to try out in your next campaign. What's going on, YouTube? I'm the Mind Flayer Slayer.
And I'm Dr. DM, and here we are with one of our last videos about the Player's Handbook from 2024. We're bringing you the species this time. We're gonna go through from A to Z and let you know our thoughts on them and if they're good for your campaigns. So let's get started with the Aasimar. This is a humanoid creature, and now you can choose your size for Aasimar in any of the species to be medium or small, and they all have the same movement speed now, 30 feet. So we're gonna talk strictly just about their abilities. So let's get started with Celestial Resistance.
You have resistance to necrotic damage and radiant damage.
That's pretty good.
Absolutely.
And Dark Vision, that comes back, Dark Vision of 60 feet.
Can't complain. Healing Hands. As a magic action, you touch a creature and roll a number of d4s equal to your proficiency bonus. The creatures regain a number of hit points equal to the total number rolled. Once you use this trait, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest.
This is a good way to have an extra pool of HP when you need it. You can even use this in combat if you want. It takes your whole action, of course. But it's there. You only need like 1d4 to get somebody up if they're knocked out, for example. And it scales a little bit, not tremendously. Eventually, you end up having like 5d4 or so. But to get a little extra healing you could use.
You can always use
classes.
extra healing.
Yeah, for sure. Depending on what kind of campaign you're doing too, like dungeon diving. Light Bearer, you know the light cantrip, and Charisma is your spellcasting ability for it.
Celestial Revelation. When you reach a character level 3, you can transform as a bonus action using one of the options below.
Okay, this is really cool. It used to be your whole action to do the transformation for Aasimar.
Bonus action!
Now it's your bonus action, and so you can do it pretty much in combat now without it being a huge sacrifice to your action economy.
The transformation of the Celestial Revelation lasts for 1 minute or until you end it with no action required. And once you transform, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. Once on each of your turns before the transformation ends, you can deal extra damage to one target when you deal damage to it with an attack or a spell. The extra damage equals your proficiency bonus, and the extra damage's type is either necrotic or radiant.
I do like this. It scales, of course, now with proficiency bonus, which is really good. I like that extra scaling now instead of just like being a static +2 or whatever. It also applies to spells, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it is not necessarily just whatever weapon you're dealing. It does the extra radiant or necrotic, which gets around resistances depending on how you play it.
So let's jump into what the transformations look like. You have Heavenly Wings. 2 spectral wings sprout from your back temporarily. Until the transformation ends, you have a fly speed equal to your speed.
Or
the Inner Radiance. Searing light temporarily radiates from your eyes and mouth. For the duration, you shed bright light in a 10-foot radius and dim light for an additional 10 feet. And at the end of each of your turns, each creature within 10 feet of you takes radiant damage equal to your proficiency bonus.
a little bit of extra damage there. Each creature, though, that means also your allies, so make sure your positioning is good there.
Indeed. Now we have Necrotic Shroud. Your eyes briefly become pools of darkness, and Flightless Wings sprout from your back temporarily. Creatures other than your allies within 10 feet of you must succeed on a Charisma saving throw, DC 8 plus your Charisma modifier and proficiency bonus, or have the Frightened condition until the end of the next turn. We talk about these conditions a lot. Frightened is very good, as well as Blinded. All of these different conditions really are powerful in the 2024 Player's Handbook.
I do like this. It does replace, remember before with Aasimar, you could be like Protector or the Scourge, things like that. So you're not really like a subtype now of Aasimar. And now you can kind of choose what you want to do every single time you invoke the transformation.
You can kind of mix and match too a little bit if you want to.
That's true, depending on what kind of situation you're in, what combat you're in. So
yeah,
I like this. There's a lot here. When there's a lot here, you know it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Aasimar looking like a good species.
Oh, absolutely. I would definitely recommend this to new players and veterans alike. I think that anyone will have a great time playing in Aasimar. We certainly have one at the table in our previous campaign, and she loved it. So.
Yeah, a lot of good options there. And roleplay. All right, next up, Dragonborn comes back. Draconic Ancestry. Your lineage stems from a dragon progenitor. Choose the kind of dragon you want from the Draconic Ancestors table. Your choice affects the breath weapon and damage resistance, as well as your appearance, which is pretty cool. And of course, it's a whole slew of dragons from previous editions as well. Black, blue, brass, up through red, silver, white, and each one corresponds to a particular element, right? Silver is cold versus red is fire, and so on. Your breath weapon comes back for Dragonborn. When you take the attack action your turn, you can place one of your attacks with an exhalation of magic energy in a 15-foot cone or 30-foot line that's 5 feet wide, and you choose a shape every time. This is fantastic. Previously, it took your whole attack action, right? You just took your action. Now you can attack if you have multiple attacks, right? You can attack a couple times, you're a fighter, and then throw your dragon breath. In addition,
I like that flavor a lot. I think that it's nice to be able to break it up a little bit.
True, 100%. So it's not just like I swing. In addition, this is really awesome now. Sometimes, previously, whatever progenitor you had kind of affixed you, whether you had a cone or a line. Now you can kind of bend it to your will and choose whatever makes the most sense for that time, right? You either go like, yes, like this, right?
Yeah.
Each creature in the area makes a dex saving throw. On a failed save, creature takes 1d10 damage of the type of your Draconic ancestry, and now it scales up to 4d10. That's not too bad, especially if you can get a lot of enemies in that
Not
cone.
bad at all.
No,
You can use this breath weapon a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. The damage resistance that you have to the damage type are determined by your Draconic ancestry trait. So that's based off of, again, your species.
All right, and Dark Vision. You have a Dark Vision of 60 feet. And Draconic Flight, when you reach character level 5, for Aasimar it's level 3, but now here it's level 5, you can channel Draconic Magic to give yourself Flight, which is, as a bonus action, which is awesome, you now have instantly Flight built into your character.
For 10 minutes!
That's not bad. So you have Dragon Wings come out at a pretty early, very achievable level.
Oh, absolutely.
I love this.
A lot
I
of
love
people
it.
start at level 5.
That's, oh my gosh, that's so true. We start at 3 and quickly get to 5, honestly.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, especially tier 1 going into tier 2. A lot to like there. What do you think about the Dragonborn?
I think the Dragonborn's great. They made it more versatile. They made it better in all of the ways that they can without making it too busted. I think it's great.
I do. It's kind of like a damage-focused version of the Aasimar, if you will, especially with that breath weapon. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it, again, to veteran players and newbies alike.
Love it.
Up next, we have the Dwarf. You're going to get Dark Vision with a range of 120 feet.
It's a lot of feet.
Yes, it is. And you have Dwarven Resilience. You have resistance to poison damage, and you also have advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the poison condition.
This comes back. Dwarves have always had this ever since 1st and 2nd edition as well. I'm not sure how impactful or how frequently it comes up. I know enemies are sometimes resistant to poison a lot in the old monster manual, but it's an okay trait to have.
Yep. And then for your Dwarven Toughness, your hit point maximum increases by 1, and it increases by 1 again whenever you gain a level. This is also back again.
That's pretty cool. It's almost like a half tough feat. So you can stack this up and get a lot of hit points.
Yeah,
for a
you can
dwarf,
make yourself a little tanky dwarf.
Yeah, especially if you choose the right tanky class. Well, think about that. You're going to have a hit point pool, especially for Barbarian, for example.
100%. And up next, we have Stonecunning. As a bonus action, you gain Tremor Sense with a range of 60 feet for 10 minutes. You must be on a stone surface or touching a stone surface to use Tremor Sense. The stone can be natural or worked. You can use this bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest.
Now, Tremor Sense sometimes gets equated to blind fighting or blind sight, which is very useful in combat, especially when people start throwing out darkness spells, things like that. But that is not this.
No.
Tremor Sense is very specific for these circumstances and lets you get a bit of advantage for if you're dungeon crawling, for example. Really good to hear like what's on the other side of the wall or the goblins walking around. But again, everything here I've seen is a little more niche, a little more narrow, except for the hit points. So Dwarf, it's a great species, but make sure you're tailoring it to whatever campaign you're currently involved in.
Agreed. Up next, you've got our pointy-eared friends, the Elves. You have Dark Vision with a range of 60 feet. Elven Lineage. You are part of a lineage that grants you supernatural abilities. Choose a lineage from the Elven Lineage table. You gain level 1 benefits of that lineage. When you reach levels 3 and 5, you learn a higher level spell as shown on the table. You always have that spell prepared. You can cast it once without a spell slot, and you regain the ability to cast it in that way when you finish a long rest. You can also cast the spell using any spell slots you have of an appropriate level. Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma is going to be your spellcasting ability for the spells you cast with this trait.
Now, I want to say that this is really cool. We're going to see this in a few of the species here, Tiefling, I think a couple others, where you have now scaling unlocks of spells. It's not just like you are a particular elven species and you get just darkness, right? I think the Drow got that at level 5, and that's kind of it, right? Now you have multiple things you get along the way as you're leveling up, and you can choose whatever spellcasting modifier you want. I think this is really good, and we'll see a couple cool examples here. So starting with Drow, as I just mentioned, at level 1, your Dark Vision increases to 120 feet, and you also get a free cantrip and Dancing Lights. At level 3, you get Fairy Fire, which is a fantastic control spell, and Darkness, which could be very instrumental to making a lot of builds work, like Shadow Monk and things like that.
High Elf is going to get Prestidigitation for the cantrip, and whenever you finish a long rest, you can replace that cantrip with a different cantrip from the wizard spell list.
This is really cool.
That's
a lot
busted.
of yeah, it is. A lot of interesting builds hinge on High Elf. I want to say specifically True Strike. You can get that from High Elf, and you're doing that to do some awesome busted builds, doing a lot of damage with melee.
And getting Detect Magic at level 3 and the beloved Misty Step at level 5 we can't talk enough about that.
Yeah, and if you're Archfey Warlock, this is an extra way to get a free Misty Step.
So
in addition,
insane.
everything here, which is all the spells we've looked at right now, these are spells that do not take a spell slot. So you can do Misty Step, and if you're a spellcaster, fire off a full leveled spell as your main action, not just a cantrip. So a lot of cool things you can do here with Elf. Then we have Wood Elf, your speed increases to 35 feet. You know, Druidcraft, very nice. You get Long Strider at 3, and then Pass Without Trace, which is good roleplay flavor and for stealthing and sneaking.
Absolutely. Your Fey Ancestry is going to give you advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the charm condition. Can come in very clutch. Your Keen Senses are going to give you the proficiency in Insight, Perception, or Survival skills.
That's good.
And then Trance, you don't need to sleep. This has always been a part of the elf, and magic can't put you to sleep. You can finish a long rest in 4 hours if you spend those hours in a trance-like meditative state, during which you retain consciousness.
This is always cool flavor, right? I'm an elf, so I can take watch and camp overnight, so I just kind of meditate, and then I can do the second half watch or whatever. But here's where elf is kind of like takes the next level. Crafting. You could actually sleep 4 hours. Everyone else is sleeping 8, and you have 4 hours to start crafting spells, clothes, whatever you
I
want.
always forget about how busted crafting is with this.
Oh my gosh. So elf, not only a proficiency, perception is amazing, by the way, to just get for free. All those spells are not spell slots. The dark vision, the trance now is super big. This, for me, is a species really worth taking pretty much on any campaign, especially if your DM allows crafting.
Absolutely. Up next, we have Gnome. This is another humanoid type with dark vision and a range of 60 feet for that dark vision, and you have Gnomish Cunning. You have advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws.
All three, all the ones that are a mental kind of affliction that can really hamper your characters, especially ones that usually that dump all these stats, right? Or even if these stats are high, having advantage is definitely going to help you make that save. That's good.
Advantage is incredible.
Yeah.
If you can get it, it is fabulous.
It is. It's equivalent of almost like a +5, but in reality, it really, really helps you make checks.
Yeah. The Gnomish Lineage, you are a part of a lineage that grants you supernatural abilities. Choose one of the following options. Whichever one you choose, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma is your spellcasting ability for the spells you cast with this trait. And then you can choose the ability when you select that lineage. So, Forest Gnome.
You know the Minor Illusion cantrip. You also always have the Speak with Animals prepared, and you can cast it without a spell slot, like we talked about, equal to proficiency bonus times per day. You can also use, of course, any spell slot to cast a spell.
Rock! You know the Mending and Prestidigitation cantrip. In addition, you can spend 10 minutes casting Prestidigitation, say that 5 times fast, to create a tiny clockwork device with an AC of 5 and 1 hit point, such as a toy, fire starter, or music box. When you create the device, you can determine its function by choosing one effect from the Prestidigitation cantrip table. From Prestidigitation, the device produces the effect whenever you or another creature takes a bonus action to activate it with a touch. If the chosen effect has options within it, you choose one of those options for the device when you create it. For example, if you choose the spell's Ignite Extinguish effect, you determine whether the device ignites or extinguishes fire. The device doesn't do both. You can have 3 such devices in existence at one time, and each falls apart after 8 hours after its creation or whenever you dismantle it with a touch as utilize action.
Good job! Woo, you did it! Okay, wow. That's a mouthful to say that you have some tools to really
tinker and play with,
or like make a lot of shenanigans, let's say. That's interesting. If you want to go for it, that's awesome. I think probably most people will choose this species hinging on that advantage. Yeah, but overall, having a couple extra cantrips and the fun little toys and devices is not bad.
Say it with me. Prestidigitation, 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 Prestidigitation.
I did it quietly earlier. All right, well, we're going to call it here for the first half of the species in-depth review. If you want to see the rest of them, and there's some really cool species we haven't talked about yet, go on to the next video for the second half. See you soon.
See you soon.